So now we'll create some buttons at the bottom of the screen so the user can decide what is actually shown on the flashcards, which makes sense being a language app. So the first step is we'll create some buttons. So we'll jump back to review page. And what we'll do is under the animated list, we'll create an elevated button. So here we have an on pressed, and we'll just have this empty at the moment. So an empty text. And we want a few buttons at the bottom. So therefore we'll wrap this in a row. And we'll also put this row in an expanded. And the flex value, we'll put that at 1. So the default is 1, but just to make this clear, so this will be 1/12 of the height of the body. So let's do a hot reload. Okay, so we can see the button at the bottom left. Let's also wrap in an expanded. Okay, so we have one button. Now, because we'll have a series of buttons, let's refactor this out. We'll name it language button. We'll cut this and put it in its own file. Okay, so the buttons will control the image, the English, the character, and the pinyin. So we'll set up an enum to represent those 4 different options. We'll name this language type. So the first will be image, English, character, and pinyin. Now, jumping back to the language button, we'll have this passed in. And therefore in here we can write language type, and we'll just access the name property for the time being. Let's also change the color. So style, elevated button dot style from, the primary color, we'll set this as the primary color that was set up. So that'll be red. So let's jump back to review page. Firstly, import the library. Pass in the language type. So language type dot image. Okay, cool. We've got one button. Copy this. Paste this. So we have 4 in total. English. So just easy to update now. Character and pinyin. Okay, so we've got the 4 buttons. Let's jump back to language button and we'll just put a bit of padding around the button. We'll update this, so we'll put 6 on the left and right, and 1 for the top and bottom. Now the buttons are obviously looking quite clunky with the text in there, so instead let's replace this with a symbol, so we can use an extension method to do that easily. So we'll jump into methods, and we've already set up one extension method, so we're just going to copy the same idea. So firstly, the extension keyword, and we need to give the extension a name. So in this case, we'll name it language symbol, and we'll place this on language type. We'll then create a method that returns a string to symbol. And now we can use a switch statement. So we can now compare against all the values in language type, and we can just put this keyword in here to do that. So the first case will be language type dot image. So what do we want for a symbol of an image? So in the Emojipedia website, we can just grab the framed picture emoji. So this is really cool. We can just copy the emoji and now paste that straight in, and that will now return this emoji. Now let's set up the other options. So for English, ABC, so we can put whatever we like. ABC will do here. Language type dot character. Let's put in the Chinese word for character. So I'm just going to write in Chinese word for character. So you could also use Google Translate to put in what you want. And lastly, language type.pinyin. Okay, so now we've got this extension method set up, we can easily apply it. So let's jump back to the language button. And now instead of language type.name, we can select this extension method. So really cool, .symbol. This will return a string based on whatever value this language type is. And awesome. So we've got these symbols displaying down there, and that looks a lot better. So obviously we want these buttons to now actually do something. So let's sync them up with these word tiles. So we'll use provider to do this. So in notifiers, we'll create a new class and we'll name this language button notifier. Extend a change notifier. So this will determine what is actually shown on the word tiles. So here we can put bool and create some variables. So show image, we'll set the default as true. Show English, set the default as true. Show character, set the default as false. So you can set whatever default value you would like. In this case, I think it makes sense just to show the English, and then the user can choose to show the other language if they want. So now we have these 4 variables. We need to create a method to update them. So update show language. We need to pass in the language type. So now we can use a switch statement, which works really well with enums. So the first case will be language type.image. So show image will be set to the value of the opposite of show image. So if show image is true, we'll turn that false, and vice versa. And the same idea with all the other variables. Use the break keyword here to break out of the switch statement. Okay, and at the end of that, call notify listeners. So now that we've set up a change notifier class, we should also set up our provider. So in main, we can do this easily. Change notifier provider. And as easy as that. Okay, so the next step is when we press one of these buttons, we need to update provider with that new value. So therefore, we'll go to language button inside the on pressed. So we'll use provider, import of context, and in here we'll write language button notifier. Set listen to false and call the method update show language. So the language we want to update is the language type that we pass in. So we'll just write language type there. So now that we're updating this variable, we now need to listen to those changes. So therefore, we'll jump into the word tile. And here we have English character and pinyin. What we can do is wrap list tile with a consumer first, so we can listen for these changes. All right, so here we can just use the notify variable as a condition. So show English. If that's true, return the text. Otherwise, let's return a size box. Likewise, show character. So otherwise, we'll just return essentially nothing with a size box. And here for the image, we'll put notifier, show image. Okay, so we've now set up the provider. We'll update the variables and then also listen for the changes. So let's give this a go. Insert cards. Okay, so we've just got the English. Let's add the characters. Cool, let's add the pinyin. Awesome, let's hide the image and the English. All right, awesome. So we can update these really easily. So now, if we just wanted to test these words, so let's say hide the characters, hide the pinyin. Okay, so we could just go through and try and guess each of these one by one and then add in the characters. Or if we want extra help, add in the pinyin. Or vice versa, we could obviously just have the Chinese displayed and therefore just try and guess it based off the characters.
冲浪板
Or we could hide everything altogether and just base it off the audio.
冲浪板
So surfboard,
奇异鸟
kiwi, and so on.